Hey everyone, how's it going? Coming off of the high of my last video where I talked very little and edited a lot, I want to make a video where I talk a lot and edit very little. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. It's no secret that anime is becoming a lot more mainstream in the West, and while TV anime is as popular as ever, anime games are right behind them. Perhaps the most popular of these anime games right now is Genshin Impact, an open-world game widely known for its breathtaking landscapes and visuals, as well as being a gacha game designed to drain you of all of your cash, time, and emotional well-being. However, through it all, I've played this game for dozens of hours. Today, after being Genshin-free for about 3 weeks, I'm gonna talk about all of the things I like about the game and all of the things I don't, and why in the end, I can't really recommend it to people, despite the game doing a lot right. Anyways, enough introduction, let's address the elephant in the room. If you haven't heard of the term gacha game by now, I envy you. In short, gacha game is a game centered around some sort of pull system, where you can summon or wish or whatever the hell the game calls it for new characters in the game. In most cases, excluding an event or something, the gacha system is the only way to get new characters. A good example of a gacha game is FIFA, where in order to get new characters, you have to open packs that have a random chance to contain the character you want. On first impression, gacha games don't sound that bad, right? Just kidding, they do from the start. If you haven't guessed by now, yes, the central gacha system is always monetized to the nines, and these games have almost become a substitute for gambling. Gambling that, technically, underage children can access, which is against the law. Okay, now that I've laid down the framework, what's Genshin like? Is it super bad like this? Is it a little more rewarding in its pull system? I wish I was kidding when I say it is quite possibly the worst I've ever seen. MiHoYo, developers of Genshin Impact, have done everything within their legal power to make wishing in this game horrible. Let's start with the obvious. The chance of getting a highest rarity character, a 5-star, is 0.6%. So already, before we even get into this gummy money stuff, you have a less than 1% chance to get a new character that you want. Now, remember when I mentioned those laws China put in to make gacha less like gambling? I actually, editor's note, didn't put that in the script, so basically China had to put down laws because people were suing because the gacha games were gambling. One of them was called the pity system. Essentially, after a certain amount of pulls, you're guaranteed a 5-star character, which is supposed to make it better since it's technically not gambling if you're guaranteed to win, eventually. So what's Genshin's pity number? Well, I'm glad you asked. At 70 pulls, you get a soft pity, where the 5-star rate goes from the previous 0.6% to the completely generous 1.6%. So you almost have a 1 out of 50 chance. Finally, on your 90th pull, you're guaranteed a 5-star. Already, these numbers are pretty high. Fire Emblem Heroes, another gacha game for comparison's sake, has a base 3% chance for a 5-star, and a pity and an insane 120 pulls, but sprinkles rate-ups all throughout the climb to that number. For Genshin, you get your nice, reasonable, less than 1% chance, then you have to pull 70 times to get less than 2% chance, then pull 20 more times to get the guaranteed one. Also, this whole time, new characters are sprinkled in with weapons, so there's a chance the thing you get doesn't even change how you play the game at all. So, all of this sucks, but believe me when I tell you it gets even worse. MiHoYo is very, very cruel to their free-to-play players. The game lacks a daily login bonus, and most times when there is one, it'll give you materials for 6 days straight and then one summon on the last day. Its main source of consistent gems for free players is the Spiral Abyss, which gives you 7 free summons bi-weekly, provided you can clear all of the 4 challenges for the full reward. When I say clear, I mean perfect clear, in order to get all the rewards, by the way. This is killer. You're averaging, including things like quests and side missions, about 10 summons every 2 weeks if you don't spend a penny, and if you were to only get a 5-star on exactly 9 rolls, it would take you about 18 weeks or 4.5 months to get that character. Add that all together with things like limited time character banners and the fact that you only have a 50% chance of getting the featured 5-star if you manage to get a 5-star, and yeah, you can see why people turn to money for this game. But here's the thing. Take it from me, who's spent some money on the game. Buying summons doesn't even feel that good either. On average, each pull is worth about $2, and that means a full pity 5-star is worth, you guessed it, $225. MiHoYo thinks that their one character is worth the price of 3.5 full-priced video games. The only benefit to buying primogems is that the first time you buy something, you get double the amount it says. But after you've bought each denomination of money once, it is so not worth it to spend any more, since you're barely guaranteed anything anyway. This shit makes me so mad, because MiHoYo is doing everything right. This exact business model generates them the most money possible. Every cent is optimized. But when you look at other gacha games, you see them still making so much money, and they're not doing this dumb shit. Granblue Fantasy, one of the most profitable gacha games, so much so that it has a TV adaptation and a fighting game based off of it, gives you a daily 10 summons. Daily. Dragalia Lost, also very profitable, gives out so much shit for free. Hell, even Fire Emblem Heroes, which is actively trying to get its player base to stop playing in typical Nintendo fashion, even they give you free stuff frequently. You'll get a login bonus every 2 weeks when there's an event, and it'll give you like 300 primogems, which is 2 summons total or some shit. Then, whoa, server maintenance that happens every like 6 weeks gives you 1 free summon. They're being intentionally anti-consumer, and unfortunately that ups the bottom line. So, rant over, let's move on to what I like about the game so I can rant more later, because let me tell you, there was more than just sunk cost fallacy that made me keep playing. I promise. I think after my crazy-ass tangent, most of you with your horrible attention spans assume that I'm hate-mobbing Genshin just because it's popular, so now I'm going to tell you all of the parts that make Genshin a really good gameplay experience, and the reason why I've played it for over 50 hours. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and be stupid and say like, ooh wow, game popular bad. No, there's a reason it's popular. Let's start with the obvious. The game looks incredible. I don't know how MiHoYo got a free game to look this good, and I'm surprised by it every time. It even looks good on mobile, which is insane. The story for a gacha game is actually pretty engaging. The plot is fairly simple. You're one pair of a twin and you're looking for your lost sibling all around the continent after you fight with an unknown god. Since the game is fairly new, the story isn't yet complete, but each new wave of story content is incredibly interesting. Speaking of lore, the characters are great. Voice acting for the most part is very good, with some high-profile voice actors on some of the main characters. The designs are also really cool and unique. Also, because it's a gacha game and they want you to pay money, literally every character is attractive or cute. Seriously, I'm not kidding. Look, he's hot, he's hotter, she's hotter, the list just goes on. The design archetypes usually fall into these 5 categories, but the characters themselves all feel completely different. Genshin actually has little story chapters for each of the main characters, which really helps flesh them out more, and really helps me grow my dislike for Jean even further. Also, they have little speech bubbles on like the side of their character portrait screen thing, and there's a story where one time a monster tried to eat Ganyu whole, but it suffocated and died because the direct quote, it seriously underestimated the size of her hip line. Her ass was so thick, a monster trying to eat her choked and died on that Liyue cake. Finally, my favorite part of the game, and the part that kept me playing for so long, the combat. This game's combat, when everything is firing at all cylinders, is just so good. It's just so good. Combat revolves around your character's abilities and elemental reactions. You can have 4 characters on your team, and every character has an ability and an ultimate ability. Abilities are lesser skills that you use for bonus damage. For example, Venti, the wind bitch over here, has an ability that creates his little pillar of wind when you see it on screen. These abilities aren't too impactful, but having 4 of them on one team and knowing when to use them correctly makes them much better. Your second ability is called your Elemental Burst, which is a much stronger ability that takes some time to charge up. Once you charge it up enough though, you're going to do a lot of damage. Using Venti as an example again, his Elemental Burst creates a black hole in the area that sucks everything into the center of it for 10 seconds, allowing you to hit the enemies all at the same time and without any danger. Also, because he's wind element, it is like sucking up all of the elemental shit you throw into it, and it'll swirl it again, and it all does bonus damage. He's stupid, he's so cool. Speaking of elements, Genshin is all about tagging in each of your different characters to use their abilities in elemental bursts, and this is further amplified by elemental reactions. There are 6 elements currently available for the player to use in Genshin, and they each react with each other in different ways. For example, if you want to apply water on an enemy, then hit that enemy with a fire attack. Then the fire and water will combine to perform Vaporize, which does a lot of bonus damage. Another example is Superconduct, where if ice and electric combined, the enemy hit by it will have its defenses cut in half. There's about a dozen of these elemental reactions. I'll probably throw something up on the screen about it, but the point is, they all directly affect how you play the game and how you build your team, and when I tell you that this is the shit I live for in the game, Looking over all of the characters at your disposal, picking and choosing which ones will be the best in each situation, making the perfect combinations of elements for maximum damage, it's all so cool to me. Plus in fights between tagging in different characters and using all of their abilities and then their ultimate ability and then swapping to a different one and auto-attacking and dashing out of the way of attacks and a bunch of other shit you can do, you get to press a lot of buttons in the game, and I would be lying to you if I said I didn't enjoy hitting a lot of buttons. It makes me really sad that this game has such an incredible combat system, because if it were in a full-price game, I would probably sink more than 100 hours into it. Unfortunately, since it's free to play, it doesn't actually let me play the game when I want to. If you've played any mobile game in your life, you're probably familiar with the idea of a stamina system in free-to-play games. Basically, free-to-play games usually have some sort of stamina meter that goes down every time you play the game. It replenishes over time and is usually back to full the next day if you drain it, but the idea of these systems is to get you to spend money on extra stamina if you want to keep playing. Gacha games have this too, but usually you're given a significant amount of stamina and the refresh rate is so high that it doesn't matter that much. Maybe it's like a couple hour wait sometimes, but it's really not that big of a deal. However, in Genshin Impact, this is a much different story. Genshin's stamina system is called Original Resin. Every day, you start with 160 Original Resin. That sounds like a lot, and it definitely is not nothing, but the things that you're going to be grinding most of the time cost 20 resin each. In Genshin, making your character stronger revolves around 4 things: a character's level, their weapon level, their talent level, and their artifacts. To level your character up, you need experience books, which come from shrines that cost 20 resin each to do. Once they hit a certain level though, you'll have to ascend them to level them up further, which requires you to fight a boss that costs 40 resin each to collect rewards from. To level up weapons and talents, you'll need to do some shrines that cost 20 resin each and a weekly boss that costs 60 resin each. Add all of this together and you'll quickly realize you don't have enough resin to get the job done, but there's another shitty aspect to this system: its refresh rate. Genshin gives you 1 original resin per 8 minutes, which means that after you blow through your limited supply of resin, it takes 21 hours to fully replenish again. That is too long a time for all of the things you need to do in Genshin. You have at least 8 characters you have to be leveling up if you want to take on the better content, so you have to focus on one character at a time because of the very little amount of resin you have. The actual domains that contain all of the materials to improve your characters are on a daily schedule, so sometimes you won't even be able to grind what you want for. Don't even get me started on artifacts. I need to break down how impossible the grind is just for closure, so I'll paint a picture for you. The average play session of Genshin is as follows. You get online and see that today is Tuesday, which means that you can farm for the materials you need to upgrade your weapon. After getting enough materials for that, you have about 60 resin left over, so you decide to go farm for some artifacts. The chances of getting the artifact you need is very low, so your grind sessions are basically just you completing the shrine as quickly as possible and praying to every religious figure possible that you get what you need. After 3 runs, you get absolutely nothing of value. Now you have nothing to do since you're out of resin, so you hop off and play something else. You can't play for the rest of the day since it takes 21 full hours to regen all of your resin. Then you get on the next day, and after 8 artifacts runs, still nothing useful. So you get off since you have nothing to do in the game anymore. Repeat this horrible process until eventually you get the thing you want. Great! Now repeat that for all of the other 4 artifacts on your character, then repeat it all again for the other 7 characters you need to invest into. If you're trying to level up talents, it's even worse, since you need materials from the shrines on a daily schedule, so if you don't get what you need, you have to wait 2 days for it to try again. It's this aggravating cycle over and over again of having to grind one day and then get off and grind another day and then get off and then on the next day and so on and so forth. The worst part is I don't think MiHoYo will change this anytime soon, since they technically did something for it earlier. They used to give you 140 resin per day, so when the community rightfully asked for more, instead of changing the replenish rate, which is what they needed to do, they gave us 20 more maximum resin and kept the replenish rate the same. Which, do you see how dumb that is? That's like if I went to a friend's house and asked for some cereal and they gave me a bowl and a dime bag of Cheerios. So then when I asked, hey, don't you think I could have more Cheerios? They say, alright man, and come back with a bigger bowl. Just because I can hold more resin doesn't mean I don't still need more resin. Here's a different example. In Monster Hunter Rise, I needed a material to upgrade my weapon that had a 2% chance to drop from a monster. In order to get that, I fought 25 of that monster in one day. It was tedious, obviously, but I was able to grind it and get it done on the same day that I needed it. That would have taken me 3 days to do in Genshin, which would have been even more tilting than it already was in Monster Hunter. I do 8 domains a day, don't get what I want, then get mad. Come back the next day, same thing happens. Same thing the next day, it just doesn't end. Alright, closing statements. This part was actually written a lot later than the rest of this video, and I actually have played some Genshin recently. So after not logging on for a full month, I come back to see the game giving me a daily login bonus. Hilarious, right? I was surprised too. They give you a daily login bonus for not playing the game in a month as a way of trying to pull you back in. This might have actually worked had I not immediately hopped back into the artifact grind and got nothing of use. I'll still probably play it more frequently, especially with the new character coming out that I'm pretty interested in, but 1 month later my gripes with the game have not changed. I heard that in future updates they're thinking of making bosses cost less resin, but it's kind of too little too late for me. I'll play it occasionally, but I think it's safe to say that Genshin Impact is not the game I hoped to be grinding for hours a day. So why shouldn't you play it? Well, no reason actually. The game's combat, like I mentioned, is incredibly fun, which is reason enough to stick around for so long. I just needed to talk about why I didn't like it, and my reasons are big enough that I can't really recommend it to people. Especially since it's a gacha game. It's such a shame that this was a gacha game, since if this game was $60, it probably wouldn't have had these stupid issues in order to exist. Unfortunately, $60 games make significantly less than a popular gacha game, and they wanted to put it on mobile, so what we have is what we got. Well, I'm out of stuff to say, so I'll call it here. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed, feel free to hit the like button, and if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. With that, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.